Jesper Skibby, who cheated death in March, was in tears yesterday as he wins a stage of the Tour de France. His win, though, did not earn him the leader's yellow jersey. That went back to the Belgian Wilfred Nelissen. Hello again and welcome back to the route of the Tour de France. We're now on stage 6 and this is the finishing line here in Amiens in the Somme. The riders having the rare privilege today of an afternoon start coming in from Evreux. That victory yesterday by Jesper Skibby was a real personal triumph because back in March he was lying what the doctors thought was on his deathbed with a double fracture of the skull after a big crash in a race in Italy. Now he's back to the very pinnacle of his racing career. He didn't get the lead, though, in the Tour de France yesterday. In fact, that privilege went back to Wilfred Nelissen, who regained the yellow jersey by 2 seconds ahead of Mario Cipollini. Laurent Jalabert is third, Alex Zula is fourth, and Zenon Jaskula of Poland up there in 5th place. Of the other big names, Erik Breukink is 7th, Andy Hampsten is 13th, a minute 22 off the lead, Claudio Chiappucci 16th, then comes Miguel Indurain, a little bit off the pace for the moment, and then the world champion Gianni Bugno. Now today is the last day for entry into our competition, so this is the number you should ring with your selection as to who will win the stage on Sunday, and then you'll go in the hat for a chance to win the yellow jersey. The number is 0839 444554. Today's stage is almost 160 kilometres. It's gently rolling. It takes them up, in fact, to a height of only 800 feet, and the riders coming here with a very strong wind behind them. And the sun shining yet again for a start of a stage of the Tour de France this year, and the riders rolling out in neutralised formation, heading for the open road.
Superb racing conditions today. The weather will stay roughly the same, 22 degrees high in the afternoon, but the westerly wind will push the riders towards the finish and should favour breakaways. The first attack of the day came 5 kilometres after the start. Steve Bauer was there for the Motorola team, the new national champion of France, Jackie Durand, and Flavio Vanzella from the GB team.
1.5 hours after the start, at 2:30, the time bonus sprint at Vesely at 54 kilometres. Steve Bauer taking the 6 seconds ahead of Vanzella and Durand. The lead over the field was 4 minutes and 35 seconds. And Bauer would have certainly known that, as Jim Okovits, the Motorola team manager, has direct radio communications with all of his riders.
I just told Steve if he needed anything just to let me know, raise his hand. Also, I told him I'd keep him posted on time checks. And that the other 2 riders he's with are no threat for him on GC, so don't worry too much about the next time sprint coming up.
And Bauer accepted what Jim Okovits had said as well. He didn't contest the sprint at La Hussoire, 81 kilometres, where he finished second to Vanzella with Jackie Durand in 3rd place.
As every day in the Tour de France, there's always a bad luck story at the back. Today it was the turn of Raoul Alcala, who had a puncture. But the ever-attentive Eric van der Aarden was the domestique in this case, passing a wheel. And Alcala soon up and on his way again.
And now, as the riders are some 5 kilometres away from the 3rd and final time bonus sprint of the day at Le Croc, they have swept up those breakaway riders of Vanzella, Steve Bauer and Durand. They're safely back in the pack, but an attack now by 2 riders who have a lead of approaching half a minute. Stefan Colliget from the Mobili team from Italy and Ralph Yearman from the Austria team have gone clear, and they've gone clear at a time when they split the field, and here they are. So 2 leaders, and they've 39 kilometres to go to the finish.
Well, again, it's going to be a fantastic sprint, I think, for 3rd place if these riders can stay clear, because the time difference between Mario Cipollini and Wilfred Nelissen is just 2 seconds, and there's a 2-second bonus for finishing in this final sprint here.
It's an unusual sight. They flushed out one of the deer locally, and it's not too sure which way to go, but it's not going much quicker than the riders in the Tour de France today, because they are setting a tremendous speed with this tailwind, and they're running through towards Amiens at near record average speed. Rolf Yearman here at the back, former champion of Switzerland, and this year having his best season, a winner of the Amstel Gold Race, when he was inches ahead of Gianni Bugno in the sprint in Holland, and also second overall and a stage winner this year too in the Tour of Switzerland.
Yeoman has always been a strong rider. When he's been able to get clear, he's a very difficult rider to catch. And also Stefan Colaggi from Italy is another good rider to get away with in a breakaway like this.
Just passed through the town of Francastel, so next stop will be Le Croc, and that is where the last time bonus sprint is of the day. 6 seconds, 4 seconds and 2 seconds are the rewards for the first 3 riders to that point on the course. And so far things working out well for the race leader, Wilfred Nellison. He's still keeping that rather dramatic 2-second lead over Mario Cipollini by virtue of that long breakaway earlier by the 3 other riders, Bauer, Van Zelle and Jackie Durand.
Information coming at the moment, the team actually organising the chase behind is the Banesto team, which is quite strange because over the last few days it has always been the teams of the sprinters, Mario Cipollini's GB MG boys and Wilfred Nellison's Novimai team have been doing the work. Here's a chance to get a more official time check. It's 35 seconds is the gap there, so no real chase being organised at the moment, and these two may well steal first and second place in the sprint bonification, and then they may even go on to the finish.
1,000 metres to the hotspot sprint at Le Croc, and Paul Sherwin is correct. It looks as though these two are going to stay clear by the best part of half a minute. They're not too interested in the small time bonuses. They're going for gold here in Amiens, which is where they're aiming for, and they're 123 kilometres into today's stage, about 36 kilometres to go now to the finish.
Well, it's a good move by these two riders. We can see that they're going to go across the 500 metres to go, but the big sprint is definitely going to be for the 3rd place here.
And Ralph Yeoman just stretching his legs, but he may even let Stefano go through and stay on the front. Stefano Colaggi just checking that shadow on his right there to see if it's going to start making a sprint for the line. At least when the sun is in this quarter, you can see the rider coming from behind you. And that looks like the banner up the road there. So let's hope our French cameramen show us the sprint for 3rd place, because that really is the crucial sprint today under the PMU banner, and no sprint at all. Now let's go back to where there should be a terrific sprint. Look at this. The yellow jersey of Wilfred Nellison has hooked up to the green jersey of Mario Cipollini, so he's going to get the lead out by the fastest man in the world. His words, not mine. And now, as a Motorola rider winds it up, Cipollini's going to try and take the 2 seconds he will require to go equal first in the Tour de France. Jalabert in pink is coming in on it too. Now Cipollini goes, and Nellison goes for him at Cipollini's speed. Nellison's not getting up to him at all. He sits up, in fact, that's Abdou Japarov who's crept up on the inside. Cipollini, after 6 stages of the Tour de France, is equal on time now with the man in yellow, and it's going to go down to the bonuses in the big sprint finish in Amiens today. What a crescendo, what a great finish we'll have for you when we come back after the break.
Tour life is frankly a long old haul, so thank heavens that every morning there's the village départ to look forward to. The village is the morning focal point for everyone on the tour. TV crews, internationally famous media legends, and of course the riders themselves. Every morning they're there killing pre-race nerves with a coffee, chatting, or just working on a more aerodynamic head. Almost all the riders turn up at the village, plus an estimated other 4,000 people passing through the gate every morning. And what a rise and shine place it is too. The surroundings are all very tasteful, but what the village provides to eat for breakfast takes, as they say, a little swallowing. Oysters, sausage swans, caviar, wine, and the regional sweetbread, this last one testing a reporter's diligence to the utmost. Mercifully, though, there's also coffee. Just what is so attractive about a buffet dinner at 9 o'clock in the morning is hard to say, but the village does exert an extraordinary pull. Of course, some bits exert more pull than others. The heaving throngs at the Credit Lyonnais press desk, for example, surely can't be explained away by a Frenchman's sheer thirst for newspapers. Still, glamour, gossip, and ludicrous overindulgence. The big question is, though, how does the same village get to turn up impeccable and immaculate at a different start line every morning? The explanation starts at around 10 o'clock each night. That morning's village has been dismantled and raced for 3 hours or so to the next morning's departure point. That's where a crew of 29, if you will, village people get to work putting it back up again. The local bull ground slowly disappears as tables, plants and tents are assembled and put into place. The crew have a routine that defies belief. After working right through the night, they kip, breakfast, pack up the village, kip on the trucks, arrive, kip, and put the whole thing up again, surviving 3 weeks on just 3 bursts of 2 hours sleep a day, and in quarters that look like something out of a 1940s U-boat film. All of this costs the tour a healthy £100,000 every week, a fair slice of which must be taken up with the crew's food bill. They get through 38 kilos of food and 20 litres of coffee per day. The night's 5 hours of construction over with, dawn rises the next day to find a pristine new village is there to greet it. So as the morning crowds race in for coffee and crustacea, the men who make it all possible are of course back asleep, more unsung heroes of the Tour de France. Speaking of which, back to Phil and Paul.
Well, thanks, James. Well, the late start of the Tour de France today, I'm afraid we weren't able to visit the village, but they certainly do a great show down there. Well, the riders are putting on a great show themselves today in this ultra-fast stage. We're looking now at the 3 new leaders on the road, and they are Andrea Perron from the Gatorade team in the middle, Johan Museeuw setting on the pace at the front of the 3, and the other rider, Massimo Garotto, who has won previously 2 stages in the Tour de France. These 3 riders having just gone clear of a bunch which is reported to be splitting up, although as we speak the helicopter pointing out to us that the split has come back together, leaving those 3 riders out in front, chasing Johan Bruneel, who has managed to slip them all at the moment and is a few seconds further up the road. Let's have a look at some of the statistics on the race today. 174 started this morning, and there are 6 riders out of the Tour so far, the latest being Aitor Garmendia of the Benesto team, who didn't start today, and that could be a blow for Miguel Indurain, losing a teammate there. The average speed of the stage, look at this, 48.6 kilometers an hour. That compares with the fastest ever stage, by the way, of 48.9. The average speed, still on record proportions, is 42.617. And the wearer of the yellow jersey this morning is Wilfred Nellison. In the King of the Mountains is David Cassani. He'll keep that tonight, by the way. The green jersey, Mario Cipollini. Now, we saw the sprint there for that 2-second bonus just a few moments ago in the previous part of our programme, which has put the yellow jersey of Nellison equal on time now with Cipollini. And we've just been to the timekeepers on the Tour to ask who will lead if they don't score bonuses at the finishing line tonight. And they tell us it will, in fact, be Nellison remaining in yellow, because they will go to the hundredths of a second, which split them in the prologue time trial. Nellison will be the leader of the Tour by 34 hundredths of a second, but that providing neither rider finishes in the first 3 when we come to the finish at Amiens. Under the 10 kilometers to go banner, we now join Johan Bruneel up front and time trialing beautifully. He looks like a man who's refound himself this year. He's moved to the Once team. He was a great prospect for the high finish in the Tour de France 2 years ago. And you know, he could well be a real prospect this time now.
Had a horrendous year last year, went out early on in the season with that crash, but he came back towards the end to win the World Cup final, which was a time trial which replaced the old Grand Prix des Nations, and he won that in superb style. I think he's quite happy with the Once team, and at the moment he's using his time trial technique to try and get away and steal the stage.
13 seconds is the gap to these 3 chasing riders. We haven't yet got confirmation of the gap back to the bunch, but believe me, these 3 can see the bunch. Well, while we watch here Johan Bruneel, one of the many questions we've got today was what was the biggest time margin for a winner of the Tour de France? Well, since the war, it was in fact Fausto Coppi who in 1952 won the Tour de France, the great Italian rider, by 28 minutes and 27 seconds from the Belgian rider Stan Ockers. Before that, you go right back to the very first Tour de France, 1903, on Maurice Garin, won by more than a couple of hours. sort of time gaps I think that Johan Bruneel would be very pleased with today.
I'm quite sure he would. In fact, I think he'd be very happy with 31 seconds at the moment, because he was 51 seconds behind in the overall standings this morning. If he can finish with a 31-second lead plus the 20-second time bonus, he could find himself in the yellow jersey tonight. That's why he really is putting the hammer down. He's got just over 7 kilometers to go now, and that group of 3 riders really are suffering trying to come back up to him there.
Well, I'm not sure, Paul, whether they're gaining on him actually, and the big field are holding those 3 riders. And of course the field itself may not know that Bruneel has slipped away on his own in the lead, because the break developed from an original breakaway of 8 men who slipped away soon after we saw that sprint at Le Croc. And then from those 8 riders, it split to pieces on the attack of Bruneel. These 3 came back together, and the rest of the breakaway went back into the main field. So it may have been a little bit of confusion there for the riders in the main field, and they may not know that Bruneel is out in front. These 3 certainly do. Massimo Girotto gasping in some fresh air there, and then looking at the back wheel quickly going up the road of Johan Museu. Champion of the United States on the top right of our picture there, Lance Armstrong mixing it at the front. And it looks like Big Miguel Indurain himself is now up here in 3rd place.
Looks like Dag Otto Lauritsen from the TVM team at the front there doing the chasing as well, but no one team is actually chasing here at the moment. There's some big boys at the front. Number 1 there, Miguel Indurain, 24, Laurent Fignon, and the time gap coming over now is actually 31 seconds, which is just exactly what Johan Bruneel needs if he's going to take the yellow jersey tonight.
And here is Johan Bruneel hunting for 31 seconds, and he'll need the win bonus as well to give him a 20-second bonus today to get the leader's yellow jersey. As now we head down towards the finish in Amiens, being chased by Massimo Girotto, a rider who has ridden 5 tours and won 2 stages, and Johan Museu, another Tour veteran, and a Tour newcomer in Andrea Perron. Feel the full force of 3 kilometers to go. These 3 riders beginning now to play cat and mouse. They've no time to do that.
They really have to keep the hammer down, because at the moment you can be sure that the main field is really starting to bore down upon them. But as we come into the streets of Amiens, it will give Johan Bruneel a little bit of a chance to move clear. There is the banner that Bruneel went under just a short while ago, but behind, the main field is surely coming up to them now, and this is a long straight up to the finishing line here.
So the 2 riders equal on time, the yellow jersey of Wilfred Nellison and Cipollini. Cipollini needs at least a 3rd place to get a small bonus to take the race lead over from Wilfred Nellison. Nellison could do with getting up here as well, because right now it's Johan Bruneel who could be wearing yellow tonight. And the other 3 have realised they've still got a chance. They're hanging on ahead of the main field. And look at this, Johan Museu just tapping Andrea Perron there and saying, just keep the gaps closed, we're still in with a chance.
2 kilometers to go. The time trap coming over the radio now is 23 seconds to the chasing group of 3 riders. No official time gap to the main field, so Bruneel has time to look over his shoulder. I think he's got this stage wrapped up at the moment, but what's going to be important is to watch the time ticking over for the main field coming over the line.
And what a time it is, Paul, because the clock, remember that this stage is approximately in miles, 99 miles, and the riders are coming up to the finish pedaling for only 3 hours and 10 minutes. That is absolutely unbelievable with this tailwind today. And now the Motorola team trying to get Max Chiandri back into the action, heading the chase down with the Novo My Boys. Lance Armstrong is the 3rd rider in line, looking to see if Max Chiandri is tucked in hard on his back wheel.
Well, the time gap for the peloton was 35 seconds there as we come up to the red kite. 1 kilometre to go for Johan Bruneel. I think he's going to take a superb victory here on the Tour de France today, and we really must watch the clock on the finish line, because it's going to be very close as to whether he can steal the jersey off the 2 sprinters who've been fighting it out for seconds over the last few days.
And Girotto wants more speed from the chase group here as they try to hold off the main field. And it's a long straight road. They're not going to hold them off. They're right up behind them now as they come towards the 1 kilometre sign. And Johan Bruneel will be looking to hang on, but hang on he will. Look at the back of your picture there. The whole field have misjudged a superb piece of riding today by Johan Bruneel. They may have closed down enough to stop him taking yellow. He's trying just to hang on. He knows every second will count. As he looks up, he can see the finishing line. 3 hours and 11 minutes for 100 miles. Unbelievable is the word for that. And Johan Bruneel somehow has found the legs to hold off the field in the Tour de France. A little look over his shoulder there. He knows now he's going to win the stage. This man is back in a big way in the Tour de France. All the unhappy days of the previous tours behind him, as the crowd start to applaud him, and then the clock will tell us whether in fact he's done enough to wear the yellow jersey tonight. That's why he's fighting all the way to the line. He crosses the line as the winner in a time of 3 hours, 11 minutes and 50 seconds. Now comes Cipollini. If Cipollini snatches this, and he might well do, he's got the yellow jersey. The clock is counting on the left. Cipollini gets it on the line. He beats Abdou-Japarov, and the other rider was Johan Capio. The time gap is 13 seconds, and that should give Cipollini the yellow jersey. But this race will continue as a battle of seconds, and a new name we will talk about tomorrow morning will be that of Johan Bruneel, who came ever so close tonight to causing a big upset in the Tour de France. And this was a superb battle now for second place, so crucial to both Nelson and the green jersey of Cipollini, and Cipollini knows how to finish best, it appears. He comes through very, very nicely. The mauve jersey there of Abdou-Japarov, not quick enough to stop Cipollini getting second. The arrival of Johan Bruneel, he held them off over some flat, open countryside, and aided by a superb tailwind. Johan Bruneel didn't quite do enough for yellow, though. It takes a really strong man to stay away from the whole field in the Tour de France at those sort of speeds, but Johan Bruneel did it. He wins today by 13 seconds ahead of Cipollini and Abdou-Japarov and Johan Capio. Poor old Johan Capio keeps getting fourth place in the battle of the sprinters. Johan Bruneel on the podium for the first time in his career. He now has won a stage of the Tour de France, and as soon as he stepped down, Paul Schoen was with him.
Did you realize at the end of the stage there just how close you were to taking the yellow jersey?
No, I never thought in the yellow jersey, because I knew it was going to be very difficult because of the bonifications, and I knew if the three behind me, they were going to get caught. The sprinters in the peloton, they will get bonifications, and normally Cipollini and Nelson, they are the fastest, and so I knew it was going to be very difficult for the yellow jersey.
You've had a hard couple of years with accidents and things like that, but now you seem back to form. How do you see the rest of the tour?
I'm feeling very well now, and my first ambition was to win a stage. So now that's done, and now I will think at helping the two leaders of the team and try to get them in the podium in Paris.
Thank you.
So Johan has achieved one ambition early on in this year's Tour de France. He's got his stage win. In fact, the Once team have 5 riders in the top 10 overall in this classification, but the leader tonight is Mario Cipollini. He leads Wilfred Nelson by that second place time bonus today, 12 seconds. Johan Bruneel is now up to third ahead of his other teammates, Laurent Jalabert and Alex Zulav. Remember, as always, all of the results of the Tour de France can be found on page 350 on Fortel. Tomorrow, the riders head off from Péronne, which isn't too far away from here, and then they head down to Chalon-sur-Marne. If this wind keeps blowing, who knows what will happen. But today, Johan Bruneel showed us how to handle a tailwind. He got away from the field, about 16 kilometres to go. The 3 who chased him down couldn't catch him, and neither could the sprinters. At the end, he was a very decisive lone winner. Until tomorrow, from us all here in France, goodbye.